So hello, fellow cryptids. This is our first episode, our first full episode, and it's very exciting.
Hooray!
Yes, we've been waiting to do this for so long, and it's finally here. And for the second time, actually, we had
we, we had
so
a bit of an encounter with Murphy's Law, you might say, in an earlier version. That is to say, anything
yes.
that can go wrong will go wrong. So we had recorded this and had all this great content and talking points, and then it didn't save. So here we are doing this for the second time around. But
It crucially did save. It just didn't save well. But this is Assassin's Creed Origins, and we're so excited to be here, ready to play, even if it's a second time um, restarting. So, yeah. What are you excited about with this game, Saren?
I love the soundtrack for this game. I actually listen to it quite a bit while I'm working on my dissertation, just like on Spotify in the background. I'm also very excited to see the storytelling of this over again because I think they did a really good job overall, like introducing us to complex characters that have like a lot of emotional depth and whatnot to them. That'll be really cool. And of course, to talk about any and all archaeological dimensions we can pull out of this thing, which is a lot. What about you, Lith? What are you excited for?
Um, this is a bit after the period I'm most familiar with.
Same.
Um, but I do really like learning about, Hellenistic Egyptian culture and like kind of the trades that Egypt and the Macedons made in a lot of ways. And they really created something unique in Alexandria, particularly. But I really love how it's showcased here.
Mm-hmm.
And
You are the Magi from
excited to
Sumer.
do it again.
I thought
Oh
Magi
yes.
was supposed to protect the Pharaoh.
Like one of the other good things
I
they
am
did with
Magi
this
to
game
your
is kind of
Pharaoh.
flipping some of those like dominant historical narratives on its head
I
a
can
bit.
read my
Because
own
we're not,
lips.
playing as like a high-ranking Macedonian somebody. We're playing as Bayek instead.
We will
Just
find
adds
you.
a whole another layer to the story,
We
which is
will
really well done.
find you in your sleep.
Impressive.
Very.
Sleep. I never sleep. I just wait in the shadows, and I will kill you all. Everyone who sniffed the air that day in Siwa.
It looks very painful. It's the second time I've seen it very recently.
That's
And
true.
it just makes my head hurt a little bit. Um,
That's fair.
yeah. So I'm gonna be tutorialized a little bit here.
Mm-hmm.
You killed my master and left me for dead. That was a mistake.
The master was a murderer.
I am his sworn bodyguard. It is a question of honor.
I am the Magi
One of
of
the other things I
Siwa.
love about these
Then you are
games
a
in general
worthy
is
opponent.
with this like combat stuff. Like I said, I've got over a decade of experience in various forms of fencing under my belt, and I just like that they actually tried to give you a bit more of a taste of like how these weapons would have been used in their historical context. So well done Ubisoft on that. May not be totally accurate, but it's something for sure.
Yeah. It's nice that they did as much aesthetically as they did.
Mm-hmm. These games are also just like gorgeous in a number of respects.
They're
And
very
like we talked
pretty.
about in the previous version of this, we also like that it doesn't just show the past as like kind of a muddy brown color. I think that's how a
Yes.
lot of people envision it, that the
I
past
mean,
was riotously colored in a
right,
number of ways.
right this
Broken
moment,
weapon won't save you.
things are very
This
brown.
place
But,
will serve us too.
I mean, you were in the middle of a sandstorm, so that
yeah.
makes some sense. But you can see on the columns in the background that there's a lot of polychrome, multicolored paintings going on there, and on these pottery that we just zoomed in onto.
Ow. Yeah, so you can kind of see the paint. It's not all brown. You can still see that it was kind of filled in with gold. And I really like that quite a bit.
Exactly.
Hieroglyphics aren't just brown, guys. This isn't
Surprise.
painted anymore, but I'm assuming that that's because it was basically sandblasted.
Yeah, that tends to happen in environments like this.
I need to find a way into another room.
So I think that's kind of what's going on there. But yeah, so a lot of what these games in general do is make the past more alive. Like, it's filled with a lot of people, and it's not dead. It's not in ruins. There are
Yeah, we
will
ahead.
see runes later this well, right now, I mean, really.
Yeah, we are indeed in the remnants or ruins of an older building for sure.
Yeah, but I like that this game doesn't, like, this game actually shows that Egypt is, so
Really old.
that there's more to it than just what we might see at first. So
Exactly. And like we talked about in a previous version of this, I love that Ubisoft that has really kind of nailed the visual aspects of the past, is creating a very detailed world for us to run around in. Even if every single detail isn't like totally historically accurate, that's fine. It's believable enough. Like, there are definitely things that we'll see in here that, as archaeologists, gave us a pause the first time we played this, and we're like, that's not a thing for this period, but it's close enough that it's a believable environment for us to run around in on many levels, with all the people and things and animals and buildings and whatnot. And they just did a really good job of making this past come to life, like you said.
yeah, excuse
Nice
you.
save.
I feel like a lot of times with museums, we don't really see a living past. We see
A very dead past.
yeah, and it's hard to kind of picture how this
Up there.
people might have been living. But because we have made it so it looks like there's, very few people there, and that's one of the things that these games do that is perhaps better than a lot of museums. All that being said, this is a fictional game.
Yeah.
Fictional universe.
Or semi-fictional, at least.
I mean, in the sense
the setting is real, but like the storyline is semi-legendary. Let's put it that way.
yeah, so we can talk more about the ancient aliens at another point. But
We can talk extensively about that, I'm sure.
Soldiers.
just because we like this game doesn't mean that, and we approve of like the historical setting. Even Ubisoft themselves says, like, in a warning at the beginning of this, that it's meant to be fictional, and that it's not necessarily a fully accurate version of the past.
Yeah.
Watch out! Fire! Is that you? It is an ambush. You are telling me?
You are supposed to be dead. And you will be. We'll make sure of that.
I don't need to pick you up currently.
Yeah, maybe not yet.
There we go. That's nice.
Perfect. So back with the like historical stuff, there was a post from an archaeological blog that I follow a lot of that said like, is this, a historical story? It's like it's not exactly history, it's not exactly archaeology, but it's a legendary story that's set in an actual past. And I'm like, I like that.
Nearly a year, my friend. It's good to get out and fight.
So embellishes a lot of historical detail to create a material world for a legendary, whatever setting that they happen to pick. In particular, the actual review I was reading from there was based on the show Vikings, which I'm sure we'll talk about later when you play Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Come. It has been a long road. You need rest? No. No rest. Not until all the masked one's guts lie baking in the sand. God, I have missed you.
Welcome to Discovery Tour by Assassin's Creed, Ancient Egypt.
Hey, fellow cryptids! Welcome to the first Discovery Tour interlude, the part of the show where Lith and Seren are gonna go on a Discovery Tour.
Yay!
So, Ubisoft created this mode, and it's wonderful. Basically, they used all of the historical data and collaboration with museums and archaeologists that they were already doing, and turned it into a game mode. And it's been quite highly praised by academics in general. So let's get started.
Welcome to Alexandria, planning of the city.
So this is the first one that the game wants you to do, sort of the tutorial, and it's going to tell you about how the city of Alexandria was planned.
Alexander's plan to build his great city began with a verse from Homer's Odyssey. There is, in front of Egypt, in the sea with many swells, an island called Pharos. Guided by these clues, Alexander the Great founded his future city at the western end of the Nile Delta.
Yeah, so Alexander was a pretty big fanboy of Homer and Odyssey and
The Iliad, too.
the Iliad.
Mm-hmm.
He kept them with him everywhere he went. So.
Yeah, he had some copies of both of Homer's works that he took with him on all of his campaigns.
Much
As you
like,
said, quite the fanboy.
yeah, like I keep a copy of Lord of the Rings with me everywhere I go.
Excellent analogy.
Though Alexander considered this location ideal for his great city, it presented considerable challenges. Too difficult to access during storms, the surrounding swamps threatened disease, and the limestone soil prevented the growth of healthy crops. However, due to the influence of his mentor Aristotle, Alexander the Great recognized that the true value was its strategic emplacement. Alexander knew that in controlling Pelusium to the east, Memphis to the south, and his crowning glory Alexandria to the west, he would create a triangular stronghold, allowing him to control the entire delta while giving him access to the Mediterranean.
Yeah, so ships were really important. They're still very important nowadays. I don't think people realize how much boats are still used to ship things everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But basically,
It's also interesting too with the whole like limestone soil didn't really allow you to grow a lot of crops there. That with the whole shipping thing, they'd have to bring a lot of stuff in because it's not necessarily growing there
The
naturally.
great walls of Alexandria had a humble beginning. Lacking chalk to outline the future city's foundations, architects were forced to use flour instead. Clouds of migrating birds swept down and ate the flour, erasing the plans. This prompted Alexander to seek guidance from the oracles, who reassured him that his future city was destined to feed a large population.
Yeah, so oracles were quite important, especially to the Greeks,
Yes.
or the Hellenes, as they were actually called.
Hellenes or Hellenes, depending on which pronunciation you follow, but yeah.
Yeah, you can thank the Romans for bad names.
Excavations led by Mahmud Bey el-Falaki in the 19th century revealed that the wall enclosure measured approximately 5.2 kilometers in length and 2.2 kilometers in width. It was roughly 9 meters in height.
Pretty big walls.
Yes.
Not the biggest, but big nonetheless.
Impressive.
Yeah, so the reason why they're known as Greeks today is because the Romans found a colony of Greeks in Italy who were called the Graeci, and they decided to call all the Greeks Greek.
These formidable ancient walls would resist a number of attacks, including fending off the king of Syria in 169 BCE. It wasn't until 295 CE that they eventually fell to Roman Emperor Diocletian, and this only after 8 months of relentless assault.
Yeah, so Alexandria was one of many Alexandrias. Alexander pretty much built a city wherever he went, assuming there was room for it. But this was really, like, I think his baby more than any of the others were.
That's true.
I mean, he loved Egypt so much that, like, he wanted to be buried there. Despite the wishes of perhaps his family.
Yeah.
So I think that says a lot about how much he liked Egypt.
Alexandria's principal architect, Dinocrates, chose a Hippodamian grid plan. The grid maximized functionality, with wide, straight roads and canals running beneath them. Alexander recognized the military value of the city's design. The wide, parallel streets gave him optimal surveillance of the city, while allowing the unobstructed flow of troops.
Yeah, so Alexander actually managed to plan most of the city with the help of his architect, obviously. So he was very involved in the process, but he never really got to see it finished. He didn't return to Egypt until he died. So
Indeed. It's also worth noting that this grid system that they were talking about is evident in quite a few of our kind of older cities, even over here in America, like Charleston, South Carolina, and some places like Boston and on the eastern seaboard also have that grid planning. It does tend to be very efficient.
A central corridor ran from the Mediterranean's north port down to Lake Mareotis to the south. This thoroughfare acted as an unobstructed link for commercial trade and travel between the two ports. Many of the streets were bordered with grand buildings and parks, including Canopic Street, with its impressive gate bordering the eastern end.
And we did notice that they've censored the statues in Discovery mode. So if you see something that doesn't look like it should be there, that's probably because it shouldn't.
Yeah, like seashells and strategic places.
Alexandria was most likely built upon an already existing Egyptian village. Upon its completion, the Egyptians reviled the city, refusing to call it by its founder's name. Instead, they called it Raked, the building, as a mark of disdain, which was later Hellenized into Rakotis. Despite this, the name Alexandria would remain.
this is likely built. So they don't know for sure. And I remember, so I took a whole class on Alexander the Great. And from what I remember, it said that it was pretty barren when he first started planning it. Like, that was the whole point, to be able to plan a city from the ground up. Not to say that there wasn't some sort of village there or small settlement, but there wasn't anything
This extensive. Yeah,
this
no.
extensive. It was mostly, just land.
Yeah. I mean, he did, as it said, he did pick a very good, strategic place to locate this thing. Excuse me. It's
Yeah.
also worth remembering that not all societies from the past and periods of history wanted to necessarily end up with cities like this, but
They got it
usually a lot of
anyway.
these they did, but a lot of these games concentrate in places with cities in some form or another because that's where we have a ton of archaeological records and artifacts coming out of places like that.
Yeah, so
If you have a much more like ephemeral, not long lasting, temporary settlement like a campsite, that's not going to necessarily leave a ton of stuff for us to be able to read later.
yeah, and I realize that the sources that we're reading this from are all written by Alexander's successors, or people writing about the writings of the successors of Alexander. So, they could have said there was nothing there, but, I also say there's nothing there when I pass through, a city that has, like, a single square and, like, one stop sign to
Yeah.
designate it as a city. So I'm sure there were some sort of people here, but, I mean, they did say earlier in this tour that it wasn't good farmland here, and that's how most of the Egyptians made their living. So I wouldn't be surprised if there wasn't much that was built
Yeah.
on top of. Not to say that Alexander was like the actually greatest person ever, morally speaking, but I don't think that kind of last phrasing made it sound like it was a much bigger settlement that was there before Alexandria was built. And I'm just not sure that that's accurate, at least
Yeah.
for the sources we have. But I'd be interested to know what source they used for that. But in the meantime, back to the gameplay.
Where is your mouth?
Oh no, I don't think Fang is equipped.
There you are.
Uh-oh.
Oh dear.
Let us go, Senny.
So Lith has a special version of the game. I guess they gave you like a bonus starter pack or something where you ended up getting fangs and another like legendary outfit that we
It has been
do
difficult,
already have equipped, or don't we?
Without you,
It's not
look to
equipped.
me to keep order. But the soldiers have set up a garrison and they rule over all.
A garrison in Siwa.
Ptolemy wants the entire region kept under heel. I do my best to keep the villagers out of trouble. I could use your help.
I'll do what I can. But do not forget, I have my own justice to pursue.
I knew I could count on you, Senny.
I also think it's good that this game sets up a dichotomy between the actual Greeks that are living in Egypt and the actual Egyptians, and like Greeks who have basically become Egyptians just by virtue of living there for a very long
What's happened
time.
here?
The garrison soldiers are brutal. If they suspect a villager is lying to them, they burn his neighborhood. And worse.
And I think that's good to show that, like, the past is just as equally complex as our present times are, so.
Well said.
Welcome home.
And I like to with
See what
the
has missed.
let this title screen go and then finish what we were saying. I like that too with the kind of process of becoming acculturated to either Greek or Egyptian or a mix of both is also represented here. And we also get the Romans, which is a whole another layer to this story.
Oh yeah.
Your facts, your goods,
Your children.
The villagers are drained of life.
No one in the Whiteheads could make a move without being questioned, threatened, taxed, or beaten.
I mean, like, 100 years before this, Rome was basically nothing.
You see how it is.
Let's not attract attention.
Not quite nothing, but not.
Yeah, they were getting sacked actually by various Gallic and Celtic confederacies. So they were worth sacking apparently, but no, they were not quite the empire that they would be later.
Are you going to go to your house?
Nothing there for me.
Yeah, so it's
Tell me about the ibis.
very interesting that the Romans managed to make it.
Plague on the oasis. As you can see, the soldiers have become more brutal since he arrived.
Very
Before, they
quickly,
got
relatively
drunk and fought
speaking.
with the villagers.
That's also true.
Now that Medunamun is here, they are disciplined, vicious.
All the more reason to kill him.
Do not take him lightly. He is lean and sinewy, but very powerful.
I'm not worried. And I don't think
Why would
Bayek is either.
No, probably not.
Oh,
Also, let's just appreciate Fang's outfit.
Oh yes, the whole aesthetic of this horse is A plus.
I want
Even
to
if
take
it's
him home.
not. Oh yes, even if it's not historically accurate, A plus for the aesthetic. Not to say that we didn't have various populations in the past engage against psychological warfare on one form or another, including maybe making their horses look terrifying, but we don't know if it looked like that.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
How rude. Jostling a guy in his own home.
I have no interest in rest. I must prepare for this man.
Hepzibah! Hepzibah! Once again, the soldiers!
Rabia! My Rabia!
I am worried about you.
Ah, you know me, eh? You should be worried. Ah,
Look at you. Cuts, contusions.
I'm fine.
Everybody's grandmother, honestly.
Sit.
Oh yes.
Sit. I'll take care of it.
You haven't changed.
And I've always patched you two up. Made excuses to your parents. Times have changed, but you, I can count on.
Oh, it's cute.
Mm-hmm.
I love from that exchange that we find out that like Bayek and Aya have just been like messing things up since they were kids.
Remembering Osiris. I thought you would never wake up.
Ah, Rabia patched me up and
I let you sleep. You need to be alert to tangle with Medunamun. In fact, my friend,
a new book.
I also love that they integrated, the tutorials like into the storyline, and just instead of just having like this is your tutorial mode. And now the actual game starts, whereas you kind of get to start the actual game with the tutorials. Nice.
more arrows in the rack over there. One of the dummies is sturdier than the other.
Yeah, he went down. Went down like a dummy.
Touche.
I probably shouldn't make tons of puns, but here we are.
Are you kidding? We'll be making a lot of puns.
Make certain no one gets out of the house alive. Hepzibah! We're just here to talk.
He says that after he mutters about not letting anyone leave the house alive.
Yeah.
Come out, if you wish to clear his name. Prepare an ambush.
Neck! They will find my letters and burn down my place. I will be executed.
Don't worry.
Nah,
I will take care of this.
Bayek's got this.
Watch out!
Don't even worry about it.
Who's there?
Keep low.
And Lith, here we can
He is getting
introduce our
close.
viewers to a time-honored concept as we've been playing through this game of the introduction of the murder bush.
Now for the rest of them.
I just think it's hilarious that somehow this guy that we just murdered is hidden in this like scraggly patch of flowers, but you do you, game.
Just a few questions.
It's like, how are we even hidden right now?
Yeah.
Hey!
You're not really in the bush. Sir. Well, that's fine, I'm sure.
I think we had that thing when we were playing this the first time too. Because until we get the hidden blade later, they keep doing that. Remember?
I can't hear Seren very well. Suddenly. Alright. That should be better.
That any better?
Yes.
Excellent.
My headphone was falling out.
Great.
Taking no chances.
He's going to be surprised.
Come here. I like how you whistle at them, like everybody's a
I
dog.
know. Three more dudes.
Yep. Thanks for your money, sir.
It goes to fund a worthy cause, right?
Oh, yes. The upgrading of my weapons.
And armor and other fun things.
Yep. You're in a nice spot, sir. I like where you are. You didn't have any loot for me. You're
Not.
still moaning and rolling around too.
Like I said, I think it's legitimately until we get the hidden blade, the animation is just weird. Because I remember that happening the first time we played this.
Well, it says kill them, like I'm actually killing them, but...
Yeah, but I think the animation is just weird until you have your full thing equipped.
Well, Aya will supply us with that soon enough.
Indeed we shall. This guy has loot. I also like how Ubisoft has pretty cleverly managed to use some of this like built environment as well as other things to facilitate the whole assassin-y parkour stuff that we'll be doing. They did a pretty believable job in it in some areas. Like having carts up against your house that you could, run up and climb onto the roof or whatever. And at least in the parts of the Mediterranean, many people would sleep on the second floor of their house to have those sea breezes facilitating, being a little cooler at night.
I told you these
Not sure about parts of Egypt, but in this climate, maybe something similar was going on, hence why you keep finding rugs everywhere.
I'll show you all the magi duties of Siwa. All the problems of Siwa are here. I try to help everyone, but it is more than I can do.
So you're telling me you do not have the powers of a god?
But the real problem is that man you want to kill. And you know what? The people were hopeful when he first arrived. Surely things would improve.
That's how it always starts.
We soon learn the truth,
Yep.
actually.
I fear for the safety of your family, priest. I will move them to a more secure area.
That is the man you're up against.
It's probably fine.
Find him and kill him.
Narrator, it was not fine.
And he is surrounded by the finest soldiers.
I do not care.
You'll be
Indeed, Bayek does not care.
tougher if you want to murder that spindly shit. For sure, you'll need better armor.
I can make that myself.
Weapons are more difficult.
I just love how confident Bayek is going out on this, murder spree.
Yes, Penny Pay can certainly make
I
something
mean,
for you. Or send him
he
to
is
help you
part
find
of the
what you need.
beginning of the creed as it is,
He
so.
was alive.
True.
Look who is coming.
Yay,
God.
Senyu.
Fine form. Rabia has nursed you to health.
I must thank her.
People are desperate for your help, Bayek. They'll help you if you help them.
I understand.
We'll help them. Us and our burb.
Mm-hmm. Very good, bird. I love that she's like, I give you head scratches.
Aww. Such a happy, happy bird.
Mm-hmm.
My cat would gladly murder.
Who knows? She might become friends.
That's true. I don't think my cat is big enough to take down Senyu.
No. Loki weighs what? 10 pounds?
On a good day.
Yeah. She's a small bean, but she's a riot. But remember, Lith, we have to equip the hood so we can see by Exploria's hair.
He doesn't get his short hair yet, so. Let's see what we got going on now. Alright. I like gaining more resources at the beginning of games so that you get so that you can level up other stuff faster.
Very true. Oh my, hunting wildlife. You're good at that.
Yeah, we'll see how this goes.
I need to hunt for leather.
Also worth remembering on the hunting for leather and stuff that Egypt did not have as many species as that are endangered as we do now. So because there are more of them.
Yeah, well, Bayek might also be part of the reason why they're endangered.
Yes, that's single-handedly depopulating a lot of the animals in this part of Egypt.
That audio glitch is happening again.
Yeah.
It stopped. We're sorry about that. We're not really sure where it's coming from. It didn't happen in any of the test recordings. But yeah, hopefully it won't be a forever kind of problem. We are actively working to try to figure that out.
Mm-hmm.
So, Seren, what kind of field work have you done?
Well, like I said in the intro video, I've excavated in a couple places in Europe. One of those was in Greece at a site called Kincrae on the Corinthia, in the shadow actually of ancient Corinth, which we went hiking up to Acrocorinth, their Acropolis, quite a bit. It's worth remembering that every Greek city of really any size had an Acropolis of some variety, like a fortified citadel up kind of on a high place. Athens is just the Acropolis because it's the most well known. So I've done that, and then Liv's cat just walked in front of the camera. So, hi, Loki. What else have I done? I've also done some field work in Germany at a field school, the site that I'm focusing on for my dissertation. And then I've done a lot of non-excavating related field work in the UK and various places that was more kind of immersive site-based research, or phenomenological to give it its archaeological term nowadays. So what about you, Lith, after you finish sniping this ibex? Tell us a bit about what kind of field work you've done.
It's yeah.
There you go. Nice.
The cursor was being kind of finicky there. For reference, my cat's also mad because it's dinner time.
Yeah, I see her yelling at you.
But yeah, I mean, I
This will be enough.
did some field work in
Thanks to me.
Greece as well. Basically, at a temple that had been under excavation for a very long time, so they kind of knew a lot about it. So there wasn't quite as much guesswork going into it as there are at a lot of excavations.
This will work perfectly.
So that was, you know, kind of exciting in and of itself. But
Yes, our favorite, one of our other favorite parts about the Assassin's Creed games is the photo mode. So we'll be taking a lot of screenshots of things to use on our social media.
yeah, but it was actually perhaps very Egyptian influenced, in the sense that there was definitely some sort of cult going on there that involved a snake, which could be related to Amun Zeus. It's kind of a combination of Zeus and the Greek god Amun, kind of conflating the two a bit. And that was also very influenced by Alexander, who claimed to be the son of Amun Zeus. So
Yeah, he even has coins, I think, with him.
with the ram's horns.
Yeah, the curling ram's horns of Amon Zeus or Zeus Amon. It's cool stuff, certainly.
Yeah. So I think that this is where we're going to cut it for today. Hope you enjoyed the episode. And there will be a... there should have been an interlude in there somewhere.
Yeah, well, we'll get that in there when we get it in. It'll be fun.
So, hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed the Discovery Tour interlude. And we will see you next week with more Bayek and Sinew, as well as some Jedi Fallen Order, which I'm particularly excited about. You'll get to hear me talk about my master's thesis quite a bit. So
it's fun stuff. I can speak from personal experience there. It was a really interesting research project you did, but look forward to that.
Yeah, so we'll be seeing you next week. In the meantime, check out our podcast if you want more content from us that is not related specifically to archaeology. We talked about Lord of the Rings. And an exclusive Patreon going up on probably next week. So look forward to that, and we will see you soon. Bye!
Bye!